Hail Dicelings and set up your broadcasts, because today we're going to talk about Ironsworn. Well, really, that's the campaign that I would like to do, but I did want to touch on making a Roll20. So this is a different Roll20. I made it brand new, just so that I could walk through the process of starting a Roll20 in case anybody had any questions about it because of my last video here. But basically, I just wanted to announce that I'm going to be doing a solo Ironsworn RPG campaign here for the channel, and I'll have to figure out a broadcast time and schedule that works for me. But I'd like to do it at least every other week, but it kind of depends on how things go. But for me to be able to have a campaign, I need to set up my Roll20. So basically, once I am in here, as you can see, this is a brand new account. I've played 0 hours, which if you've seen my content before, you know that I have another Roll20 that has thousands of hours. This is not it. So after you've created your account, you should get some like welcome message stuff here, just like what you see here, and then you can view all games. Right now I don't have a game, so if I click that, it's going to take me to kind of a blank area. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with home here. The reason I want to stay in home is because there's a few things that I want to point out to new people for Roll20. If you ever want to find out what's going on with Roll20, there's a little like it's really just like a Twitter feed, Twitter repeater over here rather, and that's will tell you what's going on with Roll20 or who they're choosing to highlight, that sort of thing. If you want to manage your subscription, it's going to be right over here, and if you want to create a game, you can do it here, or if you want to find an existing game, you can do join a game. There are some people that advertise games on the community using the forums here. They're okay. I haven't seen a lot of success with them. What I'd recommend is using an online community like a Facebook one, like the OSG, or Absolute Tabletop. Those are the two that I typically am in, or a group that is specific to the game that you're playing. So if you're playing like D&D 5e, the D&D 5e group on Facebook would be a great place to try and find people to join your game if you're looking. Because I'm playing a solo game, I don't need to worry about that. So this is basically what you're going to do is create a new game, and then once it loads up here, you can name your game. My keyboard's a little clicky because it's a mechanical keyboard, so I apologize for this. I'm going to try and type as little as possible here. I'm just going to put Ironsworn. I'm going to rename this once I have an idea of what I'm going to have my campaign called. Really, if I just want to start with a blank template where there's just a map and there's no rule set applied, I can just do create game, and it will give me a, let's just do that real quick. Optionally, you can choose to add a character sheet, which is going to include certain rules to the campaign, but let's look at it without that, because this might be a good solution for somebody who's looking for something super basic. So basically, I get a grid here. If I want to draw on it, I can do draw shapes. I can draw freehand, and then I can choose whatever color I want. I'm just going to make it black, and I can say here's a cave entrance. And then if I want to add some characters, I can go into free assets, look at characters, and let's say I need a soldier. We're going to drop our soldier over here, and there is a dead soldier in the cave. We're going to make it 2 dead soldiers in the cave, and then we've got a ranger in our party. So there's our tokens. Now, if I had multiple people inside this group, what I could do to give access to these tokens is I can click on them and then click on edit token, and then I can say who they're controlled by. So because I'm the only person in here, of course, I'm going to be the only one on the drop-down list here. I can name them. I can use these bars for whatever I want. Typically, if I'm playing a game, I like to use red for health, and blue for any sort of like special tracking systems. This is kind of the best way to put it. For example, if I was a monk and I had key points, maybe that would go in the blue bar. And then the green bar, it could be anything you want to track, and these could be anything. Something that's super handy is if you have an aura, like let's say you're a paladin and you have a 5-foot aura around you, you can choose to make that a 5-foot aura like this, and then once I hit enter, sorry, a 10-foot aura, that way we can see it here, and save changes. Okay, so there's my 10-foot aura. As you can tell, it's really light yellow. Let's make this red just so it's easier to see. My 10-foot aura. Cool. So that means anything that's inside here will get the aura. This is a good way to show torchlight if you don't want to mess with dynamic lighting. But this is also a good way to show characters' auras. So let's say that I have a 10-foot aura from torchlight, and because it's torchlight, we're going to make it yellow. But I also have a 5-foot aura of something paladin-y, and we're going to make that green. You can also make it a square if your game happens to have square, so I can change that, and you can see I have 2 auras on. Basically, this will allow you to, and then if I decided to make it 15, just so you can see how this works, you can see the different layers on there. That's the short answer stuff there. So if I had a paladin aura that extended past my torchlight, it would look something like this. What I'd recommend just for ease of viewing is that you start with lighter colors on the outside, or on the biggest aura, and then work your way towards darker colors towards the inside, because it will help kind of prevent this weird green tinting that I've got going on here. So no auras here. Let's just change that, and then we remove. Sorry, I forgot. If you use 0 aura, it just does it on your token. So just do nothing, and then it gets rid of it. This is how you can do conditional trackers. These conditional trackers are just labeled what the item is. So if you have stun, stun could be anything you pick out inside your game. Some of these look a little bit more obvious than others as far as what they could be used for. Like this one right here, we could say is poisoned. However, if I want to use like a stun, maybe it's this don't yield sign, and then I can click them off by just clicking on them one more time. That's an easy way to track your conditions. The X is a good way to track how things that are dead on the battlefield, but their corpses are still there. And then these dots, basically same kind of thing, but you can use color coding. I know that in the past, like 4E players have used like Coke bottle lids, or not lids, but the little thing that goes around that holds the lid in place, the little plastic cap retainer, if you will, to indicate statuses, and you could use that in the same way. So that is some quick basics. Let's just go ahead and get rid of a bunch of stuff here. So if I click on this, this is the drawing that I put down for the cave. I can move it around, or I can just backspace and delete it. I'm just going to do backspace and delete all this stuff here. And that's pretty much how you can get some different like tokens and things like that set up, so that you can just immediately jump in and play. The game has a chat window right here in the welcome section. It actually goes over like how to roll. This is an important section. Just kind of keep your players aware of this. The one that I see players use the most is the GM Whisper. And then of course just regular dice rolls. What's kind of cool is if you want to hide your rolls as a GM, you can do this GM roll. And GM roll will basically do it like it's behind a GM screen. The players will not see it, but you will see it inside your chat log. Once you're ready to have players joined, you can copy and paste this link right here and send it to them via email or Facebook Messenger or whatever service you like to use. And then if they click that link, it will send them to Roll20. They'd have to sign in or create an account, and then they can join your game. Once they're in your game, they're in your game forever. Now this is what I was talking about with different pages. So right now my players are here, as you can see, with the player tag. But if I was trying to build a dungeon, I can do add new page, and I come over here and I have a new map to work with. Let's say that I am going to go into free assets. Let's not do characters. Let's do Dungeon Master Essentials. Maybe that's not what I'm looking for. Dungeon tiles. Here's a good set. So let's say that this is the next dungeon that I'm working on with them, and I want my players to not know about what is going on here before we get there. So let me size this up. Okay. That looks fairly close. So what I just kind of did is I eyeballed the grid to match. There are some ways that you can match it up if you wanted to be a little bit more precise about it, which is, let's see here, set dimensions, I believe. Let's see. Oh, no. There is a way to do it. You know, I don't really recall, but there is a way that you can basically take a section of the map and say this is a 3x3 square, and then it locks it into your map. But this is kind of good enough. Right now I am currently on the objects and tokens layer, so what I want to do is take this and move the layer to the map layer. That way it's underneath the grid, and then if I want to mess with it, I can go into map layer, and now I can actually click on it again and just kind of size everything up again, making it a little tighter so that everything matches up a little better. So move that in, move this in a little bit, and that feels like a pretty good place to be. Okay, cool. And then if I want to put objects and tokens, go back to that layer, and let's say I go back up here and I want an owl bear inside here. I'm going to plop him in there, and then I want 2 rust monsters to accompany it. I throw those in, and now I've got a map here. And if I wanted to throw in my characters from before, I think I had a soldier and a ranger. I can put them there. Now, even though their tokens are here and the players could control them, because the players are not on this map, sorry, the scroll wheel will zoom in and zoom out, the players are only going to see and be able to control the tokens that are on this map. Which is why in my last video I would said that you should make basically a splash screen here that basically just shows character, like what the game's about kind of thing, or like a title screen if you would. And then when I'm ready for my players to move, I just click and drag this player thing over to the next one, and boom, players are in here. Now the tricky part is remembering that once you move your players, you are still on the screen, so you have to click there to switch to it. Easy enough. Alright, so let's just go here. I'm going to delete this page since I'm not using it. And, oh, I cannot delete the page that I'm currently on. Forgot about that. So let's slide over to the start here and delete this page. Alright, cool. So, oh, that's weird. Delete. There we go. So that is, in a nutshell, what you can do here. As far as setting up the video and settings and stuff like that, I've got mine turned off. But as you can see, I have the regular avatar size. I typically like to do names only, just because then I don't have a lot of stuff clogging up space. Or if I want to see cameras, I do small. Just personal preference. You can pick whatever size you like, and your monitor probably will dictate how big is appropriate for your screen. And then if you scroll down here, let's see here, you can do audio inputs and select which ones you want to use for your audio video, and then you can say what you want to broadcast to others. Since I have no one else inside here, it's not actually broadcasting anything. But if I wanted to broadcast video and voice only, voice only, it's all right here. I'm just going to disable these because I don't really have a reason to be there. Once you've changed these settings, you do need to reconnect. That's super important. Basically, it's just going to refresh your instance inside here. But that's basically everything here. If you want to display your name differently, like a character name, or say that I want to be known as the GM, I can save my name here. And from this point forward, when I type inside the chat, it's going to be as that. However, I do have a drop-down menu, and I can, as the GM, select and say as someone else. So as a GM, you do have some perks that other players don't have, which is like I could click on, for example, let's say my buddy Tim is inside here with me. If I click on Tim's character name, I can say something as Tim since I am the GM. Alright, cool. So the other thing you can do is rejoin as a player to see things that are limited to the player, and let me show you something real quick. So this is the GM overlay, and let's just throw a dead soldier right here, and and let's make him huge. So there's no way we're going to miss this guy. The reason I say that is because if I rejoin as player, what's going to happen is it's going to reset and send me back into the game, giving me the player view. Again, my dead guy is huge and should be somewhere around here-ish, and he's not. So if the players are here, this is what they're going to see. And if you can tell right here, I don't have a way to change pages. I'm only locked in on the stuff that my GM has allowed me to see. So if I rejoin as GM, I'm going to leave that drawing there just so that we can see it here. There's the dead body inside that box. The cool thing is if I go over to this GM layer, what I can do is not continue to draw. What I can do is click on this guy, and let's say I want to bring him to a layer where the characters can see it. I plop him into the token layer. And now if I switch back over as a player, we're going to see it inside the space that we now can see as players. So this is a good way to hide traps on your map, and then when players step on them to trigger them, you just reveal them by bringing them to the player layer, or the token layer rather, or map layer for that example of traps. It's usually better to keep it in the map layer. Anything that's on the token layer, players may be able to interact with, so it's best to kind of be careful which things you throw onto the token layer. So let's just delete these real quick, and alright, so we have our screen naked again. Let's jump out of here, and I'm going to show you how to apply a rule set once your campaign is set if you decided to mess around and do what I did just now. What you can do is come in here, and here's our campaign. I can go into settings, game settings. This is going to be the same settings we kind of saw at the beginning for creating this. There's some stuff that's specific to subscribers, but honestly you can get away with playing a great game on Roll20 without subscribing. There's some nice features that you can get with subscribing, but not necessary really. What you can do is roll down here to a character sheet template and then select what game you are playing. So for example, I'm looking for Ironsworn. As you can tell, there are a ton of games on here. And what they will do is add a character sheet inside there, and it will usually provide certain rules or roles automatically programmed inside there. Blades in the Dark, when you guys saw me play that, which had a neat little graphic inside there that showed like what the dice rolls look like and that stuff, that was all part of the character sheet. But we are looking for Ironsworn in this case. Again, quite a list here. So Ironsworn. So here is our character sheet, and typically on the character sheet you're going to see a little dice like this. That typically means that we can roll using those things, and then as we play we'll kind of figure out what the rest of this sheet is about. Save changes, and then now we go back into the campaign itself, launch the game, and I didn't show it before, and I really should have. This is how you add a character or a handout. You go over here and you click on add character, handout, or folder. If you click on character, you're going to see it creates a character folder. It's going to auto-populate a name inside there. And then this is what a blank character sheet would look like. If you do not have a character sheet programmed in, it gives you kind of like a blank screen here until you go into attributes and abilities, and you can basically build your character sheet using some commands and things like that you can find on the wiki. It's a little complex. If you have a game that's listed in Roll20, I would suggest using the sheets that are in Roll20 because they're usually pretty good. So this is our character sheet for Ironlance. We'll get more to that later on when I go to actually build this campaign. And I do want to add a handout. So now that I've got a handout folder, I can right click here, add handout. Mysterious note is what it always defaults to. I can edit that, and then I will just copy and paste this inside here. Uh-oh. That's not good. Well, it deleted what I was going to save into my note, or my copy and paste got overridden. Basically, I'm looking at two different campaign ideas, and I was going to put them inside here. I'm going to put a really brief thing just so that I know. Or Xiaoyun. Okay. Spell that right. That's embarrassing. Ronin or Xiaoyun. Basically, I want to do an Ironlands game where I am either playing a Ronin during the period where swords are outlawed in kind of a pseudo-historical fantasy Japan. Maybe a purely fantasy type setting that is influenced by Japanese culture in the way that Ironlands is influenced by Nordic Viking culture. One of the things that I really like about Ironlands is it's a game that has that aesthetic to it, where it's like Viking-y and things like that. But if you look at the art and kind of the way the game is written, people from all over the world live there, but because of the weather and the conditions of it, it dictates a certain clothing, and people act a certain way that is a little bit more in line with like fantasy Vikings, but without being a bunch of big white guys with beards. I'm thinking about either doing my own setting of Xiaoyun or doing a setting where, again, I'm playing in basically a kind of a fantasy Japan where I'll be playing like a Ronin. Swords will be recently outlawed, so Ironsworn are basically criminals. And the idea is basically the Ironsworn are still needed because the monsters and Oni and things like that only really respond to iron, which because of the way guns work, it's going to be lead that's coming out of them. So the lead bullets and things like that just won't be the same as a forged katana. Is kind of my thinking. If it's a Xiaoyun game, I get to explore more like immortality and what it means to be a wandering hero and kind of a Zhanja-inspired fantasy. Which, if you want to know more about Xiaoyun, there's videos on the channel. Definitely check those out. I won't go into super big detail about it. It is available in beta, and there's a link to Index Card RPG, which is the base native system for my setting of Xiaoyun. So I go ahead and save that there and close that. That's basically all I need right now. I will go over Ironsworn and figure out my next steps as far as like generating a character and generating the world that I'm in. But I do have inside my Ironsworn folder, I have a blank map that I know that I'm going to need to use. So this is the map for Ironsworn. I'm going to move around and draw on it and things like that. What I want to do is take that blank map and plop it in here. And I just want the first page of the PDF. Luckily, it's only one page, so that's easy. Do that, and should have showed up. Where to go? Let's try that again. Continue. It seems to be having an error, so what I will probably need to do is convert that to an image just to make my life easier. Then I'll drop it inside there. Sometimes PDFs get a little weird about it. But then I will use that to kind of guide myself through the game. But that's kind of how you drop in maps. Let me find a... find an image that we can throw inside there just so you guys can see how dragging a map would be. So here is the drop dice emblem. Let's just drop that inside there. Basically, if this was a map, it would work the same way. I drop it inside. I can adjust the size of it and move it around to wherever I like. This is a very small file, so unfortunately when I maximize the size like that, we get a very grittier version of the drop dice logo. But that's how uploading a map to Roll20 works. And then I can delete it out of there. I can move it around, change between layers and things like that, like I was saying before. That is pretty much everything that I'm going to go over right now. For setting up a basic Roll20, there's a lot more that you can do that makes it interesting. And as I add stuff to this campaign, I'll probably try and touch on it if I can, at least in passing. That way, anybody who's learning how to do this stuff can maybe pick up some pointers for me. Like I said, probably the best person to check out is Taking 20. He's got a lot of really good, helpful videos on how to use Roll20. Thanks for everybody who's tuned in, watched after the fact. This was kind of an impromptu broadcast, just because I felt like recording tonight. So thanks for the support, guys, and I'll see you next time I film.